everybody, I'm Heather Briggs of My So Quilty Life. Welcome back to my channel. I am so happy you're here. Today we're talking all about month 5 of the Flower Shop block of the month. We are already on month 5. I don't know how that happened. I mean, we have one more month after this left and then it's all done and we've made this beautiful quilt. But before we do that, we've got to finish piecing our blocks, which is what we're going to do today. So for month 5, we are making blocks 9 and 10. Block 9 is actually 2 blocks. Those are the cute little planter boxes underneath each window. And block 9 is right above the door. It's this flower with these leaves. It's just beautiful. But before we do that, I thought I would show you the quilt. Now I am going to be combining both of these tutorials for each of the blocks into one video because we've already done a ton of the techniques that we use in the flower for block 10 and the leaves in previous videos, so I thought it would just make more sense if we just made one video for both of the blocks. But first, let's go ahead and look at our quilt. I have my quilt here, all folded nicely. Let's get her opened up. So we are making for block 9, so there's 2, blocks 9. We are making these little, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. So there are these little planter boxes with like a lattice look at the bottom of the window. There is one right there. So you've got 2. You've got one here and one on the other window on the bottom. So we're gonna make these today, but we're also going to make the little flower with the leaves that go above the door. So I'm gonna hold it up like this so you can see it. So you can see the block right here. So here is that block. Okay, so go ahead and grab your month 5 pattern and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have my block 5 pattern and I thought really quick I would just bring that quilt back up here on the table so that you can see the blocks a little better. So right here is our block 9. We have 2 of those. So this is actually super simple to make and I'm going to show you in the tutorial just how to do it. But you have one block here under this window and on the other side as well under this window right here. So we'll get into that, but then I also really quick want to show you this block. And this block is no different than what we've already been doing with those cute little flowers. And I also have a video in my series called How I Would Approach It, showing you exactly how I make this flower here. But we're going to be making these little stem and leaf units and this flower to create this flower motif above the door. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the block 9 and walking you through the pattern. Now I'm not going to sew step by step. I've already assembled a lot of mine, which you'll see, but we will go through all of the steps. Okay, so let me just get set up here really quick before I start talking so I don't lose track. Okay, so I have my pattern open and I've cut out all my pieces. So go ahead and get that far. I am using my Dainty Meadow print, which is what I originally used in my Flower Shop quilt, and then I am using a low volume from the Strawberry Lemonade collection by Sheri and Chelsi. You know that I am adding just a pop of color in my second quilt and I thought this would look really great together. So go ahead and get all of your pieces cut out. As you can see, I have done a lot right here, but I haven't done everything. So I still have to turn this into those little planter boxes, which is what these pieces are still on my design board right here. So I haven't completed this block, but I wanted to show you exactly how to do this because I know some of you are going to have questions. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to walk through it in the video. So what you're going to do is you're going to essentially be piecing your rows, so your low volume with your little fabric eyes. So these are fabric J, the squares. Right here are fabric J. All of these low volume squares are fabric J. All of these little pieces right here are fabric I. All you're doing is paying close attention, like right here, you're just assembling 3 fabric I's and 2 fabric J's. And you're gonna work down the pattern as it's showing you. You will also have these longer pieces that will go in between when they're assembled. You have 2 fabric H's, you have 2 fabric G's, you have 2 fabric F's, you have 2 fabric E's, and you have 4 fabric D's. So fabric D are these ones here. Now, when you're sewing this together, my best tip is I sew it all together in a row before getting up and pressing. But if you have difficulties with your seam allowance, I suggest sewing one fabric eye to J, pressing and checking and make sure everything measures out before you assemble everything. This does not have to be perfect. The only places that I want to make sure are lining up are when I assemble all of these rows. So you're gonna have rows. So this is a row, this is a row, this is a row, this is a row, and so forth. When you sew all the rows together with these in-between pieces, you wanna make sure as close as possible that these line up here all the way across. Now mine isn't perfect, so you don't have to be perfect, and you will never know in your block, because in your block, it'll fit like this and you won't even be looking at it this way anymore. But it's just good practice to just make sure all those line up, so when we do get to measuring, we're not off. So go ahead and make your piece. This is exactly how yours should look before you start cutting anything or marking anything. And if you have any questions, just let me know. But I just assembled all my rows and went back and pressed them. I am pressing everything towards this print here, this tan print. But now we're gonna go ahead and get started. So go ahead and make one lattice unit in step 1 on page 1. Okay, we're gonna get started by making sure our fabric is the right way. We are going to start first by finding our mark 1. So let's go to step 2 on page 2. We're using a ruler with a 90-degree edge. So I have a 90-degree edge right here and here, and I like to use my ruler. So this is a 24.5 by 8.5 inch ruler. Now I don't need this big of a ruler, but I do need a 90-degree edge. And I just like how this has a lot of length here, so I can capture that 18.5. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna find point 1. So point 1 is going to be found right here on this edge. Let me pull this down. Now this is just the one that has 2 fabric J's and 3 fabric I's. And what we're gonna do is try as best and close as possible to mark our point 1 where I have it on the pattern, okay? Now what we're going to do is measure over 7.5 inches to find point 2. But at the same time, I'm going to be looking at my edge and where it falls. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my mark. Let's see, I'm just gonna use the top of the ruler, even though I know this is 24.5 inches. What I wanna do first is measure 7.5. But I also want to look at a couple things. So you can see these lines, these black lines, these 45-degree lines on my ruler. Right now, they do not align with anything. I want to see if I can align them as much as possible with something, but I also want to look at something else as well. So even though I am looking at those seams with those lines, I also want to see what this top part will look like when it is cut. So I want to make sure that it is a straight 90-degree line, but I also will find that when I put my mark there, and when I have my lines parallel here and here to my seams, if you see that right there, you might be able to see it a little better in the camera, and then I'm lining this line, just eyeballing it with that line. I will see what I get at the top, right here. So if I were to cut this right here, what would that look like? And it looks like it's going a little bit higher than I want. And right here, it's going right in the center in that corner. So I want to try to aim for that as much as possible. So I am going to move my ruler down a little bit so that I'm not getting too far off of my parallel lines here, but that I'm not also cutting off anything. So what I'm going to do is I like that a lot. And I'm just going to make sure I'm still on my mark here, but I'm going to find my second point and put a point, okay? Now I know that might feel a little confusing, and you don't have to line anything up. You can just throw your ruler on there and cut if that's what you would like to do. But now that I know that I want this as my straight edge up at the top that I'm cutting, I'm going to draw a line. So I'm going to draw a line right here. And I'm also going to connect my point 1 with my point 2. So I'm connecting those here. And because I'm using a friction marker, I can always press this to get those marks out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down my ruler 18.5 from the top here while making sure I'm still on that line. And I am going to put a point. Okay, so I went ahead and aligned my 18.5 inch mark right here with that top line that I found in between point 1 and point 2. And my edge of the ruler now lines up with that line that I drew all the way down to find where I kind of want my top to be. Now, because it's only supposed to measure 18.5 inches over, I'm good to draw just a line here. Essentially, this is your point 3 here and your point 4. So I'm just finding that at 7.5. Now what I'm going to do is just draw a line to connect those 2 points, just making sure that this line that I drew is still at 7.5. And that looks pretty darn good. Right there, all the way down. And I'm just going to draw a line. Again, right now we are just drawing lines. We are not cutting anything. Do not cut anything yet, because if you cut something and you don't love it, you can't do anything about it. So it might be hard to see, but I have my drawn lines here. 7.5 by 18.5 is what you're going for. Now you want to make sure that you're in on the fabric on all these lines. Okay, so you don't have to worry about being a 1/4 inch away from your line, because your line is the cut piece. So when you sew, you'll have your seam allowance. So just make sure you're on the fabric with your line, and I am. Now we're going to do the similar thing, but instead of measuring from over there, we are going to measure, and you can go a little bit more than 7.5. So I'm just going to go a little bit more here. I'm trying to line up with that line first. I'll line up with the line at 8. So let's line it up at 8 so that we do have a 1/2 inch gap there, just in case. Now you just also want to make sure that you are lining up your seams with the lines on your ruler as best as you can. And we are going to put our first mark, and I can tell that I need to go down. So let me pull this down for you. So I aligned the line that I drew with my 8-inch line on my ruler. And I can tell from here that I need to go down, because if I did draw it right here, my 7.5 falls off. So we might have to make it smaller than 8 inches, but I'm just move that down a little bit here. I still have my 8-inch line on the ruler on the line that I drew right there. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and mark a line just to see how we're doing. My point 1 on 7.5, making sure that I'm still parallel here, and mark on 7.5 there, just seeing how I'm doing. After that, I'm going to pull up my 18.5 inch here. Gotta find it. 18.5 and 18.5. And see where I'm at on my fabric. So let's see. So it looks like if I'm staying on my 7.5, I might go off a little bit on the edge here. So I'm gonna pull that in to only have a 1/4 inch gap. So I'm lining up my line at 7 3/4. And I'm gonna go ahead and strike a line. So I'm gonna put a line here. All the way down. Doing it a couple times so I can see it, okay? Because we want to make sure that our next piece is going to be within the rest of the fabric that we have. So now I have 2 lines. Now I just need to go back and just find my point is now higher. So now I just need to go over. I'm getting my square here. So I'm getting my 90-degree angle here by putting a line. Now I need to find the bottom line, so I'm putting my ruler at 18.5 inches, and I'm aligning the edge of my ruler up with the line that I drew right here, and that is putting me right here. So I'm just going to draw that line. So you're essentially finding your points. So we found our point 3, which was here, and now we're finding our point 4, which is there. And now I'm just going to turn it around just so I can measure correctly, because I want to get the distance. And you can just measure off the top one, but my worry is if I were just to measure 7.5 off that line, that if I accidentally miscut my fabric a little too far in, then I've cut into my block. So now I have just about a 1/4 inch gap, which is plenty. So here we go. Just drawing some lines here. Okay, so now I have my 2 pieces drawn, which I'm sure you can barely see, to be honest. I have my 1 piece here and my 1 piece here. So just follow exactly what I show in the diagram and you will be just fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the scary part. I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. I believe what I have is perfect. Now, if you wanna measure one last time, that it does measure 18.5 by 7.5, and that does. All right, and this one does. Yep, we're good. So I think I'm gonna cut it. Let's cut it. I'll be the brave one and I will cut it first. So I'm just gonna start by cutting this way first so that I don't accidentally cut into something else. All the way down. Okay, so now I have my 2 separate pieces so I don't have to worry. And now I might go to a smaller ruler. Right here, just to get this edge. Okay, then I'm gonna switch back to my bigger ruler. I know, it's crazy. I like to do a lot of crazy things. And again, I'm measuring this out just to make sure before I cut, because once I cut that off and I cut this off, if I'm off and I'm remaking it. Right now, I can still see and I can add if I need to. So I'm good there. I'm good there, so I'm just gonna cut. Okay. And now I'm just going to turn this and cut this way. Right here. So I'm at my 18.5 here and my 7.5 down here. And you might be a little unsquare, which I can see right here. I'm a little off by 1/8 of an inch. I'm just going to move this down till I am square with the bottom. Go ahead and square that, and then I'm going to come back over here just to cut off that little bit, just to make it square. We're not perfect when we're drawing those lines, and we can get off a little bit, but we'll just make up for it when we're cutting. Okay, so here is my first one. See how easy that was? You're just finding your points wherever you want them, just drawing lines, making sure you have enough room to cut out 2 pieces, and here we have our first piece. Okay, now I'm going to do this one. Same thing. I am going to find my, and I'll probably just use my big ruler for this. I don't need to use my other ruler. I'm finding my 90-degree angle where I drew. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it. I feel confident about it. And these are not gonna be exact. What you have in this one is not gonna be exact as what you have over here, but since they're not close to each other in the quilt, they're across the quilt from each other, it won't be noticeable. Okay, so here we go. Cutting the last one and cutting that little bit. Again, you don't have to have that little bit in between, but it is a little better if you do. All right, so now we've got through the scary part, and the rest of that is trash, or you can do whatever you would like with it. We're gonna give it a good press, and then we're gonna move on to step 3. So I'm gonna walk you through that right now. So for step 3, we're just adding fabric A, B, and C to our little lattice units. And your fabric C will be assembled first on the sides here. And then your fabric A will be assembled to the sides, okay? And after you've done that, pressing towards the direction in the instructions, which I haven't cut these down yet, but then you are gonna assemble your fabric B rectangles to the top and the bottom. So the top and the bottom to create your little planter unit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all of that stitched up, and when I get back, we will be finished with this block and we can move on to block 10. Okay, I just got done assembling everything, and here are my block 9s. Now, when you are assembling these other pieces, the A, B, and C rectangles, just make sure you're not stretching out that lattice that you created, because it is cut on the bias and it will stretch. Okay, so now that I have these, they are finished. That wasn't so scary, was that's it. I hope that you were able to take away something from that tutorial. I know sometimes I struggle with giving you the exact instructions or the right words in order for you to follow along, but I hope that you found that tutorial useful. Just go at your own pace, make sure you draw out everything before cutting, and you will be fine. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to block 10. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to block 10. As stated earlier, this is gonna be a super quick walkthrough because we've already done all of these techniques already. I'm just gonna walk through the steps with you and show you where things need to line up, and this block will go together super quick. Okay, so go ahead and cut out all your pieces for your blocks, and again, drawing your diagonal lines on the specified pieces in step 1. So for step 2, we are just focusing on this little flower here. So what you're going to do is you are going to take one fabric H, which is these little petals right here, and 2 fabric Fs, and you're going to do exactly what it says in the pattern. You're aligning them, the squares on the top, and sewing on your diagonal line and pressing towards fabric F. Now you are making 4, so you have 4 petals and you're making 4. The next thing you do for step 3 is step 3, you're taking your fabric J square and putting your fabric I squares that match those petals on the corners, assembling on the diagonal line and pressing towards fabric I. The next part is assembling this flower together. So step 4, you're assembling your fabric C's to your 4 H units and your 1 J unit, exactly how it shows in the pattern, and then you will have this adorable flower unit. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to step 5. So for step 5, we're just assembling our LK units and our RK units. And again, I've already sewn them all up into these little leaf stem units, but I'm gonna show you what those are. So here is our LK unit and our RK unit. So you have a left unit and a right unit. All you're doing is exactly how it shows in the diagram. You're taking 1 fabric K, and for the left unit, you're putting 1 fabric F on the top right corner and 1 fabric F on the bottom left corner. Now, for your RK unit, you're doing the opposite. You're putting 1 fabric F on the top left, 1 fabric on the top right. Okay, so once you have made those, you're making 5 of each. You're now gonna start assembling these little stem units. So you're starting right here first. So you have to imagine that this is not here. So you need 1 fabric B rectangle, which is this rectangle up here, 2 fabric E's, and 2 RK units. So right units right here. And you're gonna assemble those together and press according to the instructions for your right unit. Okay, next you're going to assemble 1 fabric E, 1 RK unit, 2 LK units, 1 fabric G, 2 E's, and your L little green stem. Exactly how it shows for the diagram for your left unit. Now, for step 8, we are assembling these left and right units together. Now, you want to make sure that you're trying to line up these seams as best as possible. So you have a seam here, 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 and here where you want them to line up. So just pay close attention when you are. I like to pin so I can go ahead and align those first and then sew. Okay, so now we're going to be doing essentially the same thing but opposite. So we're making our left unit here, and you're just pretending this is not here, and you are assembling your B and E's to your 2 LK units, just like it shows. And now for your right unit, you're doing the same exact thing. You have fabric E, 1 LK unit, 2 RKs, a fabric G, 2 E's, and an L to make your right unit, okay? Now for step 11, again, we're assembling these together, and you just want to make sure when you do that these seams align here. So this is where I am currently at, so I thought I would walk you through the rest of the steps. All we're doing is assembling these together. So we're laying it out according to the diagram. If you're doing it right, your leaves should be pointed down, just like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to assemble these two to the sides, okay? After that, you're going to take your fabric D, and I have not cut mine down yet, and you're going to assemble your fabric D fabric to the top and the bottom here, just like this. Again, I need to cut mine down. I always wait till the end to cut it down because I don't like having to measure out long pieces if I don't have to. Okay, and then you're going to assemble your fabric A rectangles to the sides here. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, and when I get back, we will be completely done with block 10. This one goes together so quick. Okay, I just got done with my block 10. Here it is. I am so excited about these blocks. They turned out so good. So here's my block 10. Love that. I hope you have such a wonderful time making that. And again, here are my block 9s. I just think they look so cute. And I think this little volume actually looks so beautiful. And I cannot wait to start putting all these blocks together next month. We only have, what, 2 more blocks left, I believe. And then we get to put our entire quilt together. I'm so excited for that. Oh, all these blocks look so cute. I love seeing them all stacked up together over on that design board. Don't forget to use your block markers to mark each block. I haven't been able to find mine. They're somewhere around here in my studio. They're hiding from me. They say, no, you don't get to use me. But all my other ones have a marker. Don't forget to mark off your bingo that you watched the tutorials and that you made the blocks, and then also don't forget to join me for our live call to go over everything. And this is like the last month before the last month, and it's just so crazy to think that we are about to have a completed and beautiful Flower Shop quilt. I can't believe it. I'm so excited to see mine come together. It is completely different than my first one, and I know it's going to be beautiful. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you enjoy making your month 5 blocks. Don't forget to share your progress on social media using our special hashtag, Flower Shop BOM. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful quilty weekend. Bye, guys.